Hey, you're listening to Your Worst Song, and I am Alex Southey. It's the Sunday before the Monday this is coming out, so I always like doing these closer to when they come out. It doesn't always happen that way, but I just feel like it gives it a sense of immediacy and, there's something we can talk about that's in the news or whatever. That didn't end up happening, so I don't know why I'm providing this preamble really. We could talk a bit about what happened in the news, yesterday. As of recording this is Sunday, April 6th, so yesterday for me. April 5th was the anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death, so throw on some Nirvana. Uh the Jays are not that bad. That's nice. But we've just started. The Leafs made it into the playoffs, but the playoffs haven't started yet. That's nice. Ready to be heard again. And getting into music, I just watched American Valhalla, the Iggy Pop and Queens of the Stone Age collaboration album, and the thing that culminates in them playing at Royal Albert Hall. It was cool. I'm not like the biggest fan of either of them, but I was just interested in it from a music perspective. And there's a lot in it about how and why they wrote what they wrote. So that's cool. Anyway, getting into that, I have a great guest for you. We talk about kind of the type of personality that it takes to not just start music or start an artistic pursuit that's in the public eye, but continue it and feel this compulsion. Uh, so I hope you enjoy. This is me talking to Marlaena Moore, and I'm Alex Southey. It's Your Worst Song.
Really just putzing around the house. I'm gonna be doing a sale tomorrow to kind of just like get rid of some clothes, do some spring cleaning, and then also have a little bit of pocket money for tour upcoming. So yeah,
Nice.
that's what I'm up to.
Maybe this is a dumb question, but other than what we'd expect, like food or basics like that, what do you use your pocket money on out on tour? Like, are you the type who would pick up like a knickknack at a
Oh
store
yeah,
somewhere? Okay, yeah.
yeah, big time.
So if you can think of maybe something.
Well, probably just trade in these clothes for more thrifting on tour. That's basically
Oh, okay.
all I want to do all the time,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah.
Is thrifting.
Yeah.
So is fashion sort of like your another passion?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Oh,
I love clothes. I love putting together looks. I love uh yeah, I have been known to cry at a project runway. That's definitely yeah, I love it.
wow. That definitely comes across in your visuals for your music. You get a sense that you care about the aesthetics or whatever, but that's interesting that particularly it's also like you're interested on your own time in the fashion of it. And has that always been a thing, or did that come through loving certain maybe musicians that were also fashion icons, or what?
Um, I think it's definitely always been a thing. I feel like my oh my God. Um, my my mother was a very fashionable woman, and honestly, my dad as well was was very stylish, and he was kind of the original like thrift king in my world, and kind of like got me into that. And then honestly, I feel like I mean, it always just kind of soaks in. Like it's interesting, sort of like no matter what's in your world, kind of what you take away is going to come through. So I feel like even watching Sailor Moon as a child, you're
Mm,
like, oh, the fashion there is like all the outfits that's definitely sinking in. Or watching um like all the, you know, princess movies or whatever, that
right, true.
it all kind of sinks in somewhere. But I feel like maybe not everyone would say, oh, that gave me an interest in fashion, but I think it just kind of, it can plant seeds and you just never know where it's going to go. And then also like um like old movies and stuff.
Mm.
I just love how glamorous everyone looked. Um I am certainly very unglamorous right now. I'm definitely feeling the like Saturday, kind of wanting to uh sort of lie in a dark puddle feeling that'll happen sometimes, when you're just like, oh, okay, here we go. Gotta go live, gotta
Uh,
go do a self compost, as it were. But
yeah.
there is this, honestly, like, there is this craving one day to just be like, effortlessly glamorous all the time. I think it's very unrealistic. I don't think I'll ever achieve that. I think I'm just, I'm a Gemini. I'm gonna be, you know, both sides of everything all the time. So I think, even though I like to, turn out some looks, I think I'm always gonna be kind of half a little like grub, unfortunately. But
No,
that's
right now
okay.
is perfect. It's an I'm on a podcast look on the middle of Saturday. It's great.
There
No,
we go.
yeah, no,
Perfect.
it's well, that's something that I came to the idea of fashion late. Like, I don't think I'm fashionable at all. I just mean of sort of noting it and going,
Hmm.
oh, that's interesting, because for a long time, and maybe this is a thing with straight men, they see their, just if I'm going to generalize like hugely, that it's almost more like it's for function. Like, they don't care
Mm.
quite as much. Obviously, many
Hmm.
do, but I'm just generalizing, I guess. I'll
Yeah,
and
it seems.
so
Yeah.
that's all I was saying, is that's why it took me a while to get to the point of going, oh, it's actually like sort of, now I can see it from a artistic expression point of view or personality expression point of view.
Who do you think did that for you? When were you first like, oh, I see, I understand now? Or was there anyone that was kind of like a personal fashion icon for you? They were like, maybe I should get a nicer shirt or something like that.
um, uh, I think it was. This is a much more boring answer, but I think it was more just a general. It was born from my own insecurities. It wasn't from
Hmm.
looking for inspiration elsewhere. Like, does that make sense?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
like ultimately, I think a lot of it is generally, I think it's really beautiful when people can just kind of like go into self-expression purely out of curiosity and
Yeah.
not really care. But, I would be lying if I didn't say that a lot of that is definitely born from that too. It can be, yeah. I fully feel myself going into a tangent right now, so we'll try to bring it
Okay,
back
that's
to
all good.
fashion.
That's all
But
good. Sure, yeah,
yeah,
fashion. Well, okay, same question
fashion.
to you. What about icons? I know you said, like, you
Hmm.
gave some examples of more looks. You even said old movies. I was going to ask, what's old? You talking like golden era?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
like,
Like
okay,
my mom introduced me to like Joan Crawford
okay,
movies and like
yeah.
old like musicals and stuff like that. Um and so definitely, like, I love like the 40s and kind of angular, like there's this movie called The Women from
Hmm.
1939, which was an exceptionally great year for films. And the whole gimmick of that movie is that there's no men in it, it's only women, although the topic of conversation is basically like always about men all the time. But the pure looks turned out in that film are just incredible. Like, you can really draw a line from that to like Sex in the City, um, and that it's kind of like the OG like 1930 Sex in the City in a way. And the director was George Cukor, who was a unapologetically openly gay man in Hollywood, and actors loved him. And then also in the middle of that film is just like, for no reason, purely for pleasure, because the whole film is in black and white except for the sequence where it becomes like, just drops the entire film to do a fashion show,
Oh,
basically.
wow. That's cool.
And it's spectacular. And again, it's like, there's no function to the story. It's just like pure pleasure.
Right. Wow. That's still, I wonder if that's a cool way of just like using what the new medium that they had, which was this film and color
Hmm.
film. And they're like, we want to show it off. This isn't even really part of the story. I kind of want to ask about uh what the hell was it? Fuck. Sorry. It was about fashion. God, I lost it. Anyway, I can normally follow up. Whatever. Fashion. I was wondering about. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. It's just a little. I remember another thing. People seem to talk about making a big impression on them for fashion was Cher's. Not Cher the singer, Cher the character in Clueless. Cher's
Hmm.
like bedroom. She has the little
Yeah.
computer that's gonna sort out her
Yeah.
outfits. That's kind of
Yeah.
fun. And the other thing I was gonna say is when you said sometimes once in a while, certain days, you just want to go out and be like unabashedly sort of glamorous and dress up. I was gonna say that reminds me of it's very Carrie
Hmm.
Bradshaw to kind of do that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean she's yeah, Carrie Bradshaw is like the has it made a deep impression on basically all women around my age and the slightly
Mhm.
older and slightly younger because it's just the ultimate femme fantasy of, you know, being an adult, having your own apartment and just like waking up and looking over and just all your clothes are in this closet and you get to just kind of walk around and the city is kind of your own personal
Mhm.
runway and
Mhm.
then on top of that you are a writer who everyone wants to kind of know about the thoughts inside of your head and
Mhm.
so and you're kind of walking around with your own kind of inner dialogue so there's I think that's what's fun about that um, uh,
Yeah, it's almost
yeah.
escapism. I never really
Of,
thought about that.
well,
Wow.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's it's a wonderful fantasy and
Yeah.
it's often very like belittled just because it's you know a more feminine uh fantasy per se but then it's and then somehow you know I'm looking right now at the VHS for Speed, and as much as I love that, that's a wonderful film. It's like that's a fantasy as well, but it's somehow even though it's also kind of considered popcorn, it's like somehow on like a slightly like higher tier than something is just wanting to be like you know
A good time.
just have a just have yeah just like be a writer in New York and have a million pairs of shoes
Mm, mm,
is
mm.
yeah.
No, that's a really good comparison, actually. And yeah, no, I'm sure there's lots of speed lovers out there. I like it too. But no, you're totally right. It's now been almost elevated into this next level of like capital C cinema, where
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think just anything that has kind of more of a classically male fantasy is just somehow always above a slight tier up in terms of like the universal canon approval, if that makes sense, than anything that's kind of more of like a feminine fantasy. Like right now, I'm also looking at the VHSs for Pretty Woman, and
Hmm.
I rewatched that movie the other day and that it is actually a close to perfect film like it in terms of the how the script functions it's pretty airtight and I think it's if and for anyone out there who like well I'm assuming if you're listening to this you like podcasts but if you like movie podcasts there's a really excellent episode about Pretty Woman in the erotic 90s series that You Must Remember This did so and I think that gives some good fresh perspective onto why that film is so good. But again, I'm going off onto yet another tangent just sparked from my immediate view of VHS tapes over here.
This is fine with me. Podcasts are for talking, and also I love movies too. Although, ironically, I have not seen Pretty Woman.
You should do you enjoy like romantic comedies?
I love them. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's really good.
Uh, well, okay, then my follow up is the podcast that you just mentioned. Do you think, or the episode of it, do you
Mhm.
think that I should listen to it before or after? After I understand sort of first logically makes sense, but before, I don't know, maybe.
I think you should watch it, listen to that episode, and then hell, watch it again. Why not?
The sandwich. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Sandwich approach. Can I actually, I do want to stay on movies a little bit just because you seem like you're really into them. And so have you, and maybe I missed this from reading a bit about you, but have you done work in movies or anything like that, or are you just passionate about them?
Um, I
Film literate, as they
yeah.
say.
Well, and I don't want to go too far and say like I really love movies and love all the movies that I love. I feel like you can get in trouble by like claiming too.
Yeah.
I'm still a student of like films. I'm still like there's a lot of stuff that you know, there's a lot of gaps in my, in stuff that I haven't watched. So I it's something that I'm very interested in, I will say.
Cool.
And you know, honestly, I would really I've done like a little bit of film stuff very lightly. There's uh I did the 48-hour film project with some
Mm.
friends last fall, and we ended up winning the Montreal
Whoa.
competition, which was exhilarating and definitely like a very specific kind of like, touching into like making a film. It's just like it's a competition. It's extremely chaotic and very amateur, but exhilarating
Oh
nonetheless. And
yeah.
really is very cool to see what you can make out of nothing. And then also it kind of brought up like how, so like, I'm not gonna lie, like I definitely had this thought of like maybe, um, and I'm not a religious person, but I was kind of like maybe movie making is like a bit satanic in a way, like maybe it because it's incredibly unnatural and kind of trying to be like uh you're kind of trying to play God a little bit and like
Very well said.
and sort of and like basically like because have you done do you do film stuff at all?
I have in the past. I went to film
Mhm.
school and I'm starting to a
Okay.
little more now, but you are so right. You're trying to play God and create your own more, in a way, more ideal or more perfect version of a
Yeah.
small world, and that, yeah, no, you're so right.
But that's what also I think makes it really exciting and fun and
Hmm.
interesting, and kind of why it sort of taps into, the human interest in that way.
Yeah.
And then I also uh, this past winter did I got like kind of a side gig doing some assistant art direction
Oh,
on a
cool.
shoot, which was
Cool.
very, very fun, and I would love to do kind of more of that stuff. And I would also love to do more acting and things.
Hmm.
I do like improv and sketch comedy and stuff, but I don't know. I keep really. I think fucking everyone says this because I always kind of say there's kind of like there's like two kinds of musicians. There's like the musicians who kind of secretly just want to be like Steve Albini, and then
Hmm.
there's the musicians who want to be like a leading actress in an
Yes.
Oscar-winning film,
Yes.
um and that's also not to like to gender it as well. I think that they're like
No,
both
I get what you're
apply to
saying.
both versions, but I
Yeah.
think there's like there's the people who are interested in music on a very like technical like dissecting level, and then there is the people who use who where basically it's like the easiest way to get yourself a stage and make a mini play for yourself,
Hmm.
which is kind of how I've definitely like seen it in the past. Even though I enjoy recording, and um I like love writing more than anything, but I cannot lie and say that it is like there yeah, I'm definitely a spotlight seeker, as fucking horrible and cringy as that is, that is to say.
I admire
I
your honesty
can't deny
immensely.
it. Well, it's like, come on, like what are we doing? Like this is not it's really fun, and there can be honestly something really like when I go to a show that's really really good, and there's like a certain level of like showmanship and engagement with an audience, it does feel like people get like a spiritual experience out of it, where it is kind of like people coming together and sort of like witnessing divinity. I think there's something really like divine about about music, truly. But I think, it's also we're just all human beings who have our weird little like human cravings, and it's for sure, it's absolutely part of it, you know?
It's
It's
just
just like
refreshing to hear it said so nakedly. But I appreciate it. Like that's why I admire it. I don't mean it negatively at all.
Well, I try to be as honest as I can.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, then I want to. That leads us down a more general road. Like, okay, actually, sorry, I want to go back to the film stuff just super briefly. On the
Please.
48-hour film project,
Mhm.
I don't know if you said the role or roles you did. So was that? It's a small project. It's so fast. You all wear different hats, kind of thing.
Pretty much, I think the way we had a very small group, and I think everyone kind of had a different approach to it, but we were all kind of on the same page where on basically we decided that we would treat the film as like a writer's room. So
Mm,
we all wrote it together,
okay.
and then shockingly I was one of the only people who wanted to act in it. And so
Oh,
I was like, wow, must be nice to be like, cameras rolling? No, I'm good. I don't want to be in front of that. So
yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay, I guess twist my arm. And then while we were shooting, it just for like clarity, it kind of became better for everyone to kind of have like a specific role, which because it was so small, definitely things got a little like mixed up, and then we
Yeah.
all kind of acted as like producers for the final cut
Right.
essentially. So it was extremely collaborative. And that's the other thing about film too, that is such an interesting challenge for like human egos,
Mm-hmm.
where literally every every single job matters so much. Like everything, actually, it is like pretty, like, it's all, if everyone is really putting in the hard work, it's all pretty damn equal. And yet, like, simply by just like wanting to honor the art and do your best work, like the chance of getting like truly credited appropriately is like not super high. It's all kind of gets like kind of put on to um like the director, or and then who knows what like the director's romantic partner or like relative had something to do with like ultimate like decisions there. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting where you're kind of uh to do, because it's such a collaborative thing. You're like doing your best work, knowing that you might not get the full star treatment as other people, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of I think it can kind of like test people in that way.
Definitely. Yeah, I see that for sure. Because you're right. It's even though many people don't actually work this way, or many movies aren't actually made this way, audiences see it as like an auteur's medium. They go,
Hmm.
"Oh, all movies are made by like Tarantino will write it and direct it and sometimes acts in it. And all directors work that way, just some of them are famous." And the reality is, those are the few that are working that way.
Hmm.
And mostly it is like a super collaborative
Yeah.
team effort put together in like a much more general, natural way. And yet people still only sort of go, well, I only remember the people who are in the front of the screen and also, or in front of camera, and also the big name that shows up at the beginning or the end, which is usually the
Hmm.
director. No, you're so right. Yeah, that would be an interesting little Oscar category if they had like best advice from someone not technically involved in the film. Uh,
Best uncredited consultation.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Uh, okay, well, let's get a bit more into music then. I think it's interesting that you know that you're seeking a stage and you also really like music, but you also like acting and all this stuff. Why was it music initially? Why was that the path that you chose?
I
Does that make
think
sense?
I think I think ultimately this is going to sound, and I find myself so often whenever I do. like, whenever I talk to people about this,
Hmm.
it's so devastatingly cheesy, but it really didn't feel like a choice. And in fact, I've really throughout the years been like, why the fuck am I doing this still? And I've really given myself full permission to just stop at any point.
Really?
Um,
I
yeah,
mean, good, but
yeah.
that,
Well,
yeah.
because if you're not enjoying it, then like what the fuck is the point? Like it has to be fun or there's no point. It's really dumb to continue if it's not enjoyable. So I've yeah, it's just kind of how um like writing music was something that I used to just like process and kind of like debunk and kind of root through all of the very opaque thoughts in my head and try to make sense of everything. And then, because I like singing and I like performing, then it's just a very simple equation.
Hmm.
So yeah, there was never, yeah, there wasn't really ever like oh, I think I'm gonna give music a try. It was just like, I have just been muttering and singing to myself literally since I could remember. And then yeah, it's so dumb, but it's like never like felt like a choice. And maybe if it did, I would be more successful, but it just really feels like, okay, um this just keeps coming up and I'm just still making records. So I guess we're just gonna keep doing this until I perish, apparently. Or not. Who knows? I'm very open to like maybe this won't always be it, but just it just keeps coming back. So, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, when did you first start playing an instrument? Because yeah, you were singing to yourself. You can't remember when that started. That makes sense. But what about picking up an instrument and beginning to structure a song?
Well, I remember I started I took piano lessons when I was younger, um, which was, again, I famously like just hate practicing so much. And when you're
Mm.
in piano lessons and you're like reading music, guess what? You have to practice. And that's just another just very simple fact. And I just really I just didn't like it. And then when I went to but I always kind of like messing around on the piano. And then I remember on when I was 13 at my school, they had a piano that I would be kind of just like, messing around with. And then like uh just kind of came up with a little riff and then
Hmm.
wrote um and then just like sang over it and shared it with my peers, and it got a very positive response. And so, and that was the other thing too, is I talked on creative control recently, and
Yeah.
that was another thing too where I've always had to question, like, am I literally just continuing because I got the people who were like, mean or dismissive of me suddenly change their behavior around me as soon as I started like showing that I could sing and write songs. And so that's something I feel like I've had to kind of really, I keep questioning. But so yeah, it was like around that time too, and then I got like really really into it. But then it was just this really kind of crazy like tug of war, because as soon as I couldn't, I feel like I was like, I don't know, you don't know how it is when you're a teenager. It's just like so intense and in the trenches of your feelings.
Hmm.
And um, yeah, I feel that's so it was just like sometimes it could just be a lot. And when I feel like I was making stuff that I didn't like, I would totally like be a gross like tortured artist about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. And yeah, just super super dramatic, and just like um yeah, then kind
I
of like
get it.
not want to do it anymore, and all of that kind of stuff that just comes from being like literally a child.
Yeah.
um so I feel like there's been a ton of times where I've gone just like back and forth with it, because I just kind of kept questioning, is this even something I like anymore?
And so, like you said, one of those reasons, or one of the reasons that makes you doubt it is because you know part of the reason you were initially trying it is hopefully changing those people's opinion about you, or did that just happen to happen?
I think I think what happened is just like, I don't know if anyone here has tried drugs in the past, perhaps.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it's just like you that that attention and kind of change of behavior that you get from like just sharing something that you were literally just like, hey, came up with this thing, I kind of like it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it being met with like a really overwhelmingly positive response. That's like the first hit, and then you just kind of want that, like more and more and more, like, okay, how do I keep getting more of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then following that thread is when you hit the wall, and where you get frustrated because you're just like, I don't this isn't hitting the same way as it was before, because you're kind of following down that
Mm-hmm.
path. um so yeah, does that make
Hmm.
sense?
No, no, it definitely makes sense. And I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about that is, are those people still in around your life? Any of them?
Uh,
And I
no,
don't mean in like a
not
loose
really.
Facebook friend way. You know what I mean? Just
No,
actively
no,
in your
no,
life.
no, 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 no. This is like, yeah, this is just like being, yeah,
The
I don't
ripple
know.
effect of it happening in your teenage years.
Well, it's really weird because, like, when I was a teenager, I went to like a super hippie school
Hmm.
where you could just
Okay.
kind of go and do whatever you want. And um And so everyone who I went to that school with, and the people that I became, friends with, I do consider to be like family, because it was such a crazy experience that like bonded everyone. Um, and then, uh, and so basically the deal with that school was that it was like there was not too many kids, but there was a bunch of kids who were slightly younger, slightly older.
Hmm.
Now, who do you want to hang out with and be cool with?
Yeah, right, right. Of course. Natural.
Yeah, and so I think there was a lot of like relationships I had that were kind of like little annoying
Hmm.
sister energy.
Hmm.
And um and so that kind of like and then a lot of like acting out around that too.
Ah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And
it was a raucous time for
and
sure.
then and then like you're saying, so continuing that little sister metaphor, it was like you're always trying to hang out with the older sister and her cool friends, and then finally you show them this song and they actually validate you and are like, oh, this is good. Good for you. Especially at an art school, that must carry a lot of weight. Is that part of that's what
Well,
kicked it off, kind of?
well, it wasn't an art school. It was just
Oh,
like
hippie school,
it
sorry.
was just yeah, yeah. It was like a democratic school. So it was like anything that interested you, you were allowed to just kind of go off and try. Um, but I don't know. I think ultimately it just kind of doesn't really matter, and it's not
Yeah, okay.
about them being like, oh, we were wrong about
Hmm.
Marlaena. It's like, because it's also like, I think that pulling at that thread is a nightmare too,
Okay.
because it's just like if you're just trying to constantly be like just like seek to be understood, then it's like, then you're just like, not everybody has to understand you or even know you or even have anything to do with you. Like you can just leave people be to their
Yeah.
own to do their own thing. And so when you're kind of like seeking people out as like a hierarchy of people to be like won over by you, then
Mm-hmm.
that just is like keeps that just kind of feeds into like the ego cycle, which is something I'm desperately trying to break out of, because it doesn't serve any like good purpose really. It just kind of exists. Um, and so yeah, I think now it's just kind of like um and then also just like my parents straight up too. It was like they're both artists and extremely like
Right.
I do not have the story of them being like disapproving or discouraging, or
Mm-hmm.
even just like me trying to be an artist was like random. It was very, that was kind of that was the vibe in the house. And so they were like uh very encouraging, but I feel like if I like showed them a song that didn't get the same amount of like praise as like another one would, then it would be like, well, fuck, I really fucked up this time. So it was just
Mm.
like it became a cycle of like nothing that I was doing was good enough.
Jeez.
Um yeah, like, and again, that's all on me.
Self-imposed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. These were your own.
Self-imposed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um and yeah, and then I definitely like every people still like get into that too,
Oh yeah.
where I um and yeah, it's so easy to fall back into that shit. But you know, you do what you can,
You
I
do what you
guess.
can. No, no. Thank you for taking me through my own tangent of questioning there. I know it got a little bit
No,
Dr.
no, no.
Phil or something. But
Oh, that's all right.
okay, let's get in. Let's start with the main question. So the first one I usually ask is, what's your favorite concert that you've played? Your
That I
favorite show?
played?
Yes, yeah, your favorite show that you've played.
Oh my God. Well, honestly, I think it might have been the this last album release was so crazy and so special.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was not expecting the turnout that we had for it. Uh, it sold out, which kind of like blew my mind a little bit. And um, and just like playing, it was also just such like a like everyone who played in the band, I just like admire and love as people so dearly, and so that was really special. And the fact that it was a 5 piece and we played the whole record, it was just a really kind of like one of a kind, one time thing that was, yeah, just like yeah, just so special. And then Marin Tate and Sasha K, who opened, are like basically my children, and so that was really amazing. And they were kind of coming into new creative territory as well, and debuting new songs and new formations of songs. And then um, yeah, it was so special. And then I mean,
And sorry, where was
it
that?
was at Sala Rosa in Montreal.
Sala Rosa.
Yeah,
Okay, I haven't been there, so can you tell me a bit about what that is?
it is probably one of my favorite venues ever. It's just this like gorgeous, like wooden upstairs, like theater vibe with a high stage and
Hmm.
hardwood floors, like bar by the back. Um, that kind of, it has this kind of like ballroom vibe
Mm.
to
Mm-hmm.
it. That's just so beautiful. And I kind of figured like I was really grateful that Paladin, who books there, like took when I was just like, I want to book the big room, that uh he didn't say no. I felt good about that. And it was promoted well. And I kind of figured like, well, even if we get half the people there, it's still going to feel more special
Right.
than playing somewhere small. And the fact that it was a packed house was just was so crazy, was so fun. And yeah, just like it just felt great.
Yeah, it sounds like a success sort of on all accounts. It's you played well, you liked the lineup, the vibe was good, it sold out. That's
10
kind
out
of check,
10
check,
out of
check,
10,
check. Yeah, exactly.
just like a perfect just like a perfect show,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Wow.
um Sorry.
That's okay.
um
I usually, if you don't mind, I have a follow up to sometimes if somebody mentions a place I haven't been.
mhm.
Do they have a green room? And what is it like?
So they do have a green room, and after that show, uh Chrissy Lawson, who played bass and plays in Dresser and has her own solo project called Girl with Dream. It's really, really
Hmm.
good. She very bravely after that show, because she played at Tavern Tour the next week in
Hmm.
Ribbon Skirt and with Adalia, and just said like, "Hey guys, you know what'd be so cool in that green room is if you could put up coat, just some hangers for people's coats. That would be so amazing." And they ended up doing that. And so I think it's changed quite a bit, because the one minor complaint was just going in and it was just like a massacre of people's winter coats everywhere.
Yeah,
So
right.
it was a bit like this is raw, this is real. And
No, that's great.
yeah,
It was a
so
cause for positive change in the green room.
cause for positive change in the green room. So yes, there is and what also is so cool is, and again, Chrissy Lawson was the like kind of pioneer of this
Hmm.
movement. But they have curtains that open and close that
Ooh,
you can use, and so we utilized that throughout the show. It was very, very fun and
nice.
added a very cool visual element to it. So
Yeah,
very old school in that way.
sweet. No, that sounds awesome. I've definitely got to check that out next time I'm in Montreal. Not that I have any plans, but Montreal's great. Um, okay, then on the flip side, what about worst performance, worst show that you've played?
Oh God. Oh, I think that if I get too honest about that, I might start tearing up and have to
Oh,
exit the Zoom. I
oh,
think it's
okay.
like I think that there's just been some times where it's like I can't get into too details, but just where you're like, um, it can. I've had some pretty like I don't know. I'm just uh
We don't have. No, that's all
yeah.
right. It's all right if you
I
think it's you're not in the
Yeah.
headspace.
Although, okay, I will tell kind of a funny story sort of relating to this, because
Sure.
I would not qualify this as like my worst show, but I would qualify it as like maybe this was like I don't know, just like not the move on my part, because
Okay, sure.
I was opening up for Jennifer Castle in Edmonton,
Hmm.
and the show was on a Sunday. But then the weekend before was this festival in Lethbridge that I was playing in a garage rock band at the time called Switches, and we played that festival, and it was the first time I ever did acid. And the thing with acid, to those who've never done it before, is that you got to not have anything on the books
Ah,
if you're gonna go ahead and give that, because I was literally
you don't want to be stressed about anything. You have to want
it
to
was
be chill.
no, exactly. And it
Okay.
was so funny too. I basically was like I literally was like, okay, I just have to not be high on acid by this time,
Mm-hmm.
like and then it came to that time. It was like, oh my good God.
Okay.
And so uh yeah, basically and then we were like so it was like a 24-hour like full on just like circus on the walls, like just
Throughout the night.
nonstop.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the day that we're driving back to Edmonton, and that night I am playing a show, just like full on acid hangover. So
Oh,
I felt insane. And
yes. Right.
did I even practice for this show? Was I even like really fully act? Like the fact that it was, honestly, when you just look back, I mean, I was what? I was mm, 21 at the time.
Oh,
So
that's a
it
very
was like,
21-year-old thing to do, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it was just, um, and and so like, and then also too, the other thing is like, because there had been this like big festival kind of like close out of town,
Mhm.
like unfortunately, any like someone who deserves this kind of like turnout the least is probably Jennifer
Oh,
Castle, for God's sake. And so it was like kind of a low turnout night. I go up, I played 5 songs and then announced like, oh yeah, I'm not feeling very well, so that's all the songs I have, but thank you, so can't wait for Jennifer Castle or whatever.
oh.
And um and who is an absolute perfect person who you want to hear and be soothed by when you're dealing with an acid hangover is Jennifer Castle.
Okay,
It
good to
was
know.
like fully, obviously, just like first song, I'm just like in tears. And she's just like a beautiful, funny, charming, like witch woman.
Mm.
And so it was this very like it turned out being this very lovely experience, and like opening for her was uh, such a joy. But
Mm.
I definitely, if I could do that one over, I
Hmm.
absolutely would. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Don't plan
don't,
hard times with acid.
don't do, don't do a drug for the first time the night before you're gonna open for a beloved Canadian icon.
I
So.
didn't I didn't know it was your, maybe you mentioned it, I missed it. It was your first time. That's also,
No, exactly.
that's a
Again,
ride.
but I was a bit of a, I was kind,
Raucous.
well, I was raucous. I was like, I, and I still deal with this a lot. I'm kind of getting better now. I think this is just something that happens when you're older. It's just like there's this really like cognitive dissonance you have with your body when you're younger, and you just like really don't care, and you don't
Mm,
you
mm.
don't think about things fully. You're just kind of
Yeah.
rolling along. And at that time too, I was just like a like Hoover with drugs. Like
Okay.
anything that anyone gave me, I was like, yeah, let's go. Why not? Just had a very laissez-faire attitude towards just like, oh yeah, whatever. I'll just like, looking back at that now, I'm like, are you like that? I would never do that now. But it's just such a. But again, you live, you learn,
You live, you
and
learn.
yeah. So it was yeah, I
Interesting.
wouldn't say that that is the worst show, but it's definitely one that I'm just like, I, out of respect to Jennifer Castle, I wish I could have been more on my game, I guess.
Whether or not it's your worst show, you gave a very solid answer to this question. So the only, I'm just looking for stories. It doesn't need to
Absolutely.
be your worst.
Yeah.
Uh, quick question, because I have not done acid, but I have done mushrooms, and I know they're
Hmm.
sort of cousins, if you
Yeah.
will. But acid, I've heard, is a lot more like the way we like sciency, and you're seeing patterns and stuff. Whereas shrooms, it's all just sort of more of a, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's for sure a similar experience. Like, I think the thing with acid is that it is just so long.
I was gonna say,
It's just so long. And also, people will kind of lie, or maybe they just have a different experience, but say that there's like no, oh yeah, it's like shrooms without like the physical grossness or whatever. That is not true at all. Like, basic, like maybe your guts aren't like being poisoned, but like I was just like, you just get like sweaty, and the back of your head feels like it's
oh,
being squeezed like a melon,
oh,
so if you're going in for like a, yeah, like
just
you're
no.
just know that like you're altering your like you're not you're
Yeah,
like
no, you are. Yeah,
temporarily altering your mind
yeah,
with like with chemicals
yes,
that are
yeah.
like that are making you fucked up and see things that aren't there. So, neither like definitely, yeah, do whatever you want, but it's not a casual thing.
No, I think that what you said is a good thing to know going into mushrooms or acid,
Yeah.
but also it's a good thing to remember when you're in it if you're
Oh
freaking
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Remember, I have taken a thing, it is finite,
And
whatever.
you have to surrender completely to
Yeah,
the experience. You can't have a time limit on it. You can't have like a feel like I need to be
yeah,
feeling this way on it or whatever. Like you just need to completely yeah,
give up.
surrender.
Yeah,
Give
yeah.
give up to it. Which
Was
is
it a
yeah. Sorry,
was
go ahead.
all I was going to ask was it, and maybe you said this, was it a classic like the what you see in movies like a tab, little wet paper thing that you put on your tongue? Or is that am I
I
thinking
think so.
LSD? Oh, okay, okay.
Isn't that LSD? That's
Maybe
acid.
it is. I guess it's okay, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Um okay. Well, that concludes our drug section of the podcast. The third main question I ask is back to your own music. What do you think is your best song that you've released so far? Like, I'm sure you're excited about any new music you're writing and so on, but that you have unreleased, but something people can look up on a service.
Oh God. Do people you really ask people what their best songs are and they tell you come comfortably and assuredly and it's like, "Yep, I
No,
feel."
no,
No? Does
no, nope.
everyone go like, "I hate this so much. Why did I agree to do this?"
That is the sense. That's the vibe they give, even if they don't say it.
Yeah, I mean, okay. How do I reframe this for myself so I can answer this comfortably? I feel like I think one of my songs that's like endured the most over the years is probably this song called What You Need that I
Hmm.
released on um my truly first record Beginner. And I'm going to say like what's so funny is that I was really tempted to just like take that whole album down and kind of just pretend that it didn't exist, but then also realizing how that's very unfair and like not uh trying to like alter the past even as much as I'm kind of like cuz all of that album and all of those songs are literally from the ones that made it from when I was like 14 to 18.
Mm.
um and so there's definitely a lot of stuff on there that I'm just like I don't know about that, but but there is this one song that I continue to play to this day called "What You Need,"
Hmm.
and it's often been like a closer, and it's definitely, again, not to be fucking cringy hippie or whatever, but like um that was probably one of the very, very few times, if not the only time, where the amount it took to write that song was how long the song is.
Mm, hmm,
Like I
hmm.
just played it, and then that was the song. Just
Yes,
like,
right.
and so it did. I think the part of the reason why it's kind of been able to endure and kind of last long is because there is a part of me that's like, I don't think that I really wrote this. This just kind of came out of nowhere, sort of like out of the ether and
Yeah.
appeared. So there was no labor or thought into it. It just kind of came out. And so I think that kind of, yeah, like based on a technicality in terms of like a song that is still one that I'm like that has the like the graph of like longest
Yeah.
it's been alive and still play it. It's like
Yeah.
that one is at the top for sure.
I think that's a
And
very good barometer for this question.
yeah, but to be honest, and again, it's like I just released a new album and
Hmm.
um I like it and I like approve all of the songs on it, but truly I'm sure everyone can relate to this. Like, as soon as something is done, you're just like, and then you listen back to it. There is a part of you that's like, I would do this differently. I
Oh
do this
yeah.
differently. I can do this. Like, and always being, I'm always being like, can definitely improve on this. Can definitely, like,
Mm-hmm.
can definitely do better than this. And then, um, yeah, so I would say that that was kind of, and then, to sort of go into a little bit of like shameless self promotion in
Pitch
honor of
mode.
like the new album and the
Yes.
new streams I've got to freaking accumulate.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I think my favorite song on this record in terms of like a recording is actually, I would say, is like Hungry for God,
Mm-hmm.
because it just sounds so different than anything I've ever made before. And so, and Monty really just, that was one that was such a tough nut to crack in terms of how we were going to approach it, because it's such a melodramatic song that if it
Mm-hmm.
kind of veers off too much in one direction, then it's like, ugh, unlistenable,
Yeah.
like can't do it. So I'm really proud of that one in terms of but then I also am just like, I don't think I can listen to that one for a little while.
So was the
Um,
writing of that it wasn't quite the divine experience you had with the original song you talked about, but I know you said you labored over sort of how you're going to approach it production wise, but the
yeah.
actual writing of the skeleton of it, did that come easy?
That part came quite
Mm.
quite easy, I would say. That was like a very that was one of the first, I started working on that song probably in like 2019, and that was like one of the first fully written songs that I presented to Monty
Mm-hmm.
and to work on. But then it was kind of like, there was so many different versions of it, and um, yeah, trying to crack how it would sound in a recording um, was really tough. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
talk.
another thing too, is like it's
Yeah.
it's it's interesting where it's just like the song versus the production of a song.
100%. I see. Interestingly, going back to the fashion stuff we were talking about initially, that's how I see it. It's like you could start with a model with very little on, and then you go, okay, what's the vibe I want to give them? How are we going to dress up this
Hmm.
skeleton, so to speak?
Hmm.
So that's interesting. Were there any things that you thought, okay, I haven't done this before. This is a must that I want in the production uh, on this new album?
Yeah. I wanted like Mellotron sounds
Fuck
on
yeah,
stuff,
I
which was
love
very,
Mellotron.
yeah, that shit's the best. And so I feel like in terms of like production checklists, I feel like in terms of stuff that I had like previously without knowing what the record was going to be or any of the songs that it was going to be, being like, oh, I would like this on something. I feel like Empties kind of encompasses that
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit, because there's like yeah, some really nice like Mellotron synth on it, and uh piano, and just kind of like it's just a simple folk track at its core, but it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
decorated with a lot of audio trinkets,
You're right.
as it were.
Accoutrement. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, well, is there anything more you want to say about the new album before I ask you the last and titular question?
um well, get, what do I want to say about it?
If there's anything I missed in asking you about anything to note, like obviously people go listen to it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. We're gonna find out about the last song and the worst song, and I hope you go listen to that too. But yeah, go see you in concert as well.
Hmm. Yes, please. Yes, I would say I agree with all of that.
If this helps,
Yeah,
this will be out
yeah.
this Monday actually. So are there
Oh,
dates you want
awesome.
to plug or anything like that? Maybe
Yeah, sure. If this is coming out uh
Saturday, April
this
7th.
Monday, April 7th.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, basically my uh Eastern tour with Land of Talk is coming up right away. So I'm playing we're gonna be doing Gatineau and Sutton, and then the next week are gonna be in the Maritimes, Fredericton, Hamilton. No, not Halifax. I was confirmed. Yeah, Hamilton. We're not coming. I'm so sorry. So sorry to my hammerheads.
Yeah.
Not gonna be making it out. And then I'll be in um, Toronto, St. Catharines, Windsor, Guelph, and Stouffville. So we're hitting a lot of Stouffville. Yeah, hitting a lot of great spots. Can't wait to be back in Toronto. And then there's also a bunch of like never played in Windsor, never played in Guelph before, and I've never been to the Maritimes either, which I'm
Oh, that's
particularly
exciting.
very excited about. I've always tried to
Mm-hmm.
make it out to those for touring, but it's never worked out.
Never worked out.
So yeah,
Uh, for my own curiosity, where are you performing in Toronto when you're coming here?
Longboat Hall.
Oh, fantastic! I love that. That's a beautiful
Yeah, I'm very
space.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at the last question, which is what you think your worst song is that you have released.
God. Okay. And again, this is a question that people are like, no problem answering.
People are more eager to answer this one than the best
Right, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Oh my God.
one.
Well, my songs are my children's.
I know.
That's kind of that's tough because the reason why I find this question kind of more difficult,
Mm-hmm.
weirdly, is because it's not that I think all my shit is great. Like, believe me, I don't. But I think that there's just so many songs that I've written that I've been like, no, this will never get heard by anyone. So the process, what it takes for me to release a song into the world,
Yeah.
and that kind of like, like that level is like it's such an intense process. And then also too, kind of like on the production side of things, it's like it's tough for me to kind of like diss anyone who
Oh, yeah.
I hired to work on any particular song.
Yeah, that's not what I'm
So
looking for, for
I
sure.
guess so. Again, it's one of those things where like language means a
Yes.
lot to me, and so I'm
Okay.
just trying to think how I can reframe this question into like something
Something
that
you can answer.
yeah. So I would say that the okay. Not in terms of a worst song, but in terms of what I relate to the least,
Mm-hmm.
and what I have a really where I'm just because I think that that's such an interesting part of like writing a bunch of songs and then like releasing them out into the world, is that you're like, how do I kind of like, if this was about this person, but now it's kind of become about this other person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, something that I've been kind of dealing with is like getting really sick of writing about how I'm like a bad person or whatever. I think that's and it's not because I think I'm a good person. It's because it's just like so boring, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're obsessed with yourself. Like, get over it, kind of a vibe. Like
Yeah,
that's
okay.
kind of a thought. And so I would say, purely based on that, the song Love As Is, Bad Deal on my last record is a song that I just am like, I feel like I have a really, and like, I do like that song. I know a lot of people have told me they like that song in particular. The production on it is like incredible. I love everybody who worked on that.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like looking at the lyrics and being like, I can't with a straight face sing these lyrics and be genuine in them in terms of like who I want to be in my life now. So again, extremely long-winded,
No.
totally bloated answer, but I think just because like again, that was like my one apprehension of like coming onto this podcast is I was just like, how do I answer that like true like without, denying a song's right to exist into the world and then also not like claiming that anything really belongs to me and then also the time and works it takes to like release something out into the world. But the song Love Is Bad Deal is just it's one that I feel like when I sort of sit if it was one that's like you have to go sing this song, I'd be like, okay, fair enough, I get that. And I think in some ways unfortunately I can relate to it, but it's just like about just like it's just about like being a broken doll, and
Mm.
that is like not what I want to be about anymore. And so I'm wanting to move away from that. And so I think that it's probably it's a song that I relate to, or at least my who I want to be relates to that the least, I would
Okay.
say.
No, good answer. And that's actually I sort of try and you sort
The
of
gymnastics that I have that I'm doing, it's so stupid, and I'm sure just like people are like, "Come on, just answer it." But
No,
I'm like, I do have such a difficult, I'm having such a difficult time with that question of like, what's your worst song? Because truthfully, you know, it's yeah, that's such a hard question to ask, and like, because I just feel like I don't want to like, uh, yeah.
accidentally shit on somebody basically.
Yeah, or just like I don't know. It's so and I really do need to like really double down. Like I do not think that everything I've released is great. I really
Mm-hmm.
really don't. But I just think that um yeah, I don't want to uh I don't know. It is so funny. I'm just like I think this is so utterly pathetic, but I think I am kind of buying the like my songs are my children, and I really kind of hate that I think that, but I actually think that I might think that genuinely, or I'm just like, no, I've raised them. They're on their own. They're just
Yeah.
doing what they want. They exist. They're available for streaming, and I have no control over them anymore. And so it's like, yeah, it's unfortunately, that's a harder question to ask than what's your best song, and I kind of hate that that's what is in my heart. But in honor of just telling it like it is, I
Yeah.
guess I just have to state that and deal with it. So
No, and fair enough. And I know it's not I know what I'm doing asking that question, but also like I get hopefully I think I provide people enough of a like leeway to answer it the way that they want. And some like you
mm,
just did, but some people also I will frame it as what's a song you never play live anymore. That doesn't
right,
necessarily
yeah.
mean you hate it. It just means like you haven't continued to bring it with you, you know?
Well, and it's funny because there's very little songs that I continue to
Mm,
play. Like
mm,
when I'm in an album cycle, it's like that's pretty much the only songs that are gonna
right.
make it to the table. Like
Okay.
not a lot of uh yeah, it's like really
You stick to that
I
group.
think that yeah, from like each from each record there's been like I think there's only one song from each that I would continue to play.
No, that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good approach. Rarer than people might think, but I think that is a really good approach because it's like I've written these new songs, I recorded these new songs. Let me go out and support these new songs. You
Yeah,
know.
and that's also kind of the beauty of like not being insanely successful is that you can just really like no one's uh no one's clamoring for the hits,
Okay, I see what you're saying. Right.
which is also kind of like a blessing too. I'm sure there's like a lot of people who have
Oh yeah.
I mean that's a classic thing of just
Yep.
like no one wants to hear like new songs from a lot of like legacy acts,
Exactly.
unfortunately, but I'm sure a lot of them are like more into that than their older stuff that are like beloved pop hits. So it's a very funny kind of like a double-edged sword for that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing, still doing it. In the face of everything.
Hmm.
Uh, how I usually end it is I have the guest restate their name uh, and the worst song name choice. That's it.
My name is Marlaena Moore, and the song that I have the most difficult time relating to in this current moment that I no longer play live, that Alex requested be classified as worse, but
Yeah.
that I simply cannot qualify it as, is called Bad Deal Love As Is.
I've been branded as an